Hello everyone, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Soma Sarkar and today we are going to discuss land resources, distribution, livelihood and the scarcity concerns. This comes under the paper Resource Geography. So the major learning outcomes that you expect from this discussion is to understand the concept and importance of land resources, then understand land utilization, followed by establishment of relationships on land and people, and then land use, land cover status in India. So let us start with the introduction that what is actually land? The land is a fundamental natural resource for the survival and the success of mankind and for the survival of the all biological community. So actually, we are discussing the land simultaneously with the soil, because soil is what? It is the loose and unconsolidated material on the top layer of the earth's surface. So when we are actually talking about the land utilizations, we are also considering the soil. So land resources are finite, and as we all know that northern hemisphere that covers 68% of the land and the southern hemisphere covers only 32%, while the human wants are finite. So this infinite human wants actually leads to our major concern towards our land resource study. Land is not required only for agriculture, but also for industrial and other commercial uses. The vast tract of land that are used are for grazing fields, as with forest for growing it, and roads, railway lines and various other features. So let us find what United Nations Environmental Protection is saying about this land resource. It defines land resource as a delineable area of the earth's terrestrial surface encompassing all the features of the biosphere immediate, above and below the surface. Beside this, it is including those of the near surface climate, the soil and the terrain forms, the surface hydrology that includes shallow lakes, rivers, marshes and swamp, and also near surface sedimentary layers that we have said are associated with groundwater and geohydrological reserve, the plant and animal populations, the human settlement pattern and the physical results of past and present human activity. In that sense, it encompasses everything, which brings us to the relevance or the importance of land to us, because we extract a number of number of utilization of lands are visible. So let us check what are the importance of land to us. The significance of land is supporting human and other earthly biological systems, can be summarized as say it is a storehouse of wealth for people, community or a group. Storehouse in the sense it is composed of mineral resources as others, which actually forms the backbone of our economy. Then we have got the production of substance, the food, fiber and the other biotic materials for the human utilization are also available from the land, which is related because the nutritions of the land are used for the agricultural productivity, and this agricultural productivity not only used for our own sustenance but also used as the raw material productions for the industrial purposes. And it has got the provisions of natural environment or the habitat for the plant, creature and the small scale of life forms. So the small life form, it forms the habitat, their home, their needs for these small creatures. Then it is co-determinantal in the worldwide variability adjustment and the worldwide hydrological cycles, which gives both the source and a sink for its necessary gases. That means in the sense that it helps in all the biological or biogeographical and the hydrological cycles that works within our Earth's surface and the atmosphere. It helps it. Other importance can be it acts as the regularizations for the capacity and the streams of the surface area and the groundwater. Then it also acts as the storehouse, as I have said, of minerals for the human utilizations. It is a channel or modifier for the various sustenance or for the various poisonous pollution substance. It absorbs chemical pollutions and other, and through its own regeneration power, it cleans it. So it has got provisions for physical spaces for settlements, industry and diversions and the various other purposes. It is a storage and security for the historical and pre-chronic records like fossils, which gives us the informations about the past, from what is the characteristic of the animals or the flora or fauna of that particular time period. We all get these informations from this fossil and other archaeological remains. It enables us, and it also for the development of the creature, plants and individuals between one region to the other. So in that sense, it is very important for us to understand the land utilizations. How can it be defined, right? So as per FAO, land utilization is a major kind of land use, specifically major subdivisions of rural land use such as rain-fed agriculture, irrigated agriculture, grassland, forestry or recreation. Major kind of land use are usually considered in land evaluation systems of a qualitative or recognizance nature. A land utilization type is a kind of land use that is defined in a degree of detail greater than that of a major kind of land. So the kind of land use that is being considered is all type of utilizations of land in terms of the social, economic, political and all the utilization types. They are described with as much details and precision as the purpose required. Thus, land utilization types are not categorical labels in the classification of land use, but refers to any defined use below the level of major kind of land use. So now we sometimes confuse with what is the difference between land use and land cover. Actually, the land cover is the biophysical characteristic of the land, that is the natural characteristic of a land. It can be a forest, it can be mountain, that is the natural characteristic of land. While the land use is the land that is being used or that has been modified with some purpose for the human being. So as Turner has said, land use is actually influenced by economic, cultural, political, historical and land tenure factors at multiple scale. Therefore, land cover on the other hand is one of the many biophysical attributes of the land that affects how ecosystem functions. So, land use refer to a man's activity and the various uses which are carried on land. So, it refers to the natural vegetation, water bodies, rock, soil, artificial cover and any other resulting due to land transformation. That means we are actually talking about the influence of man or the influence of the activities of man on the land cover is actually denoted as the land use. How man is actually utilizing a particular patch of land. He is utilizing it, say for example, he can utilize a forest land as for plantation, for any other thing. So when we are using a forest for plantation purposes, then it will be from land cover to a land use. Since land cover and land use are very much closely related and are not mutually, they are interchangeably sometimes referred based on the land cover and the contextual evidences. So let us now talk about the major kind of land use and the land utilization types that are being provided by various institutions or the organizations. So mainly we are going by the FAO difference or the classification types of the land utilizations. So land use depends on both natural factors like, as we have said, the topography, soil and the climate, as well as the man-made factors such as the period of occupations of the area, population density, land tenure and the technological advancement of the people. So how a particular patch of land has been converted into a particular other utilizations from a natural cover to a land use is also dependent on the physical as well as the man-made factors. So various land utilizations types are often some are of characteristic of the rural places like rain-fed agricultural system, irrigated farmlands, grasslands, plantations, forestry or recreational. These are mainly actually related to the land use types of the rural or the countrysides. Now on that basis, therefore the land utilization classification, one has to consider various set of methodological specifications in a given physical and socio-economical settings. So now what does FAO say? So according to FAO, the attributes of land utilization types should include the following assumptions that I shall put forward, that it include that the produce including goods, that is crop, the livestock timber, services, recreational facilities and other benefits like wildlife conservations. It should be market oriented, including whether towards subsistence or the commercial productions. It should be capital intensity, that is capital intensity depends upon, you can classify on the basis of the capital intensity or the labor intensity, how much labor or the capital you are actually employing or actually you are investing for a particular type of land use. That has been also a criteria or the assumptions for the classification of the utilization of land. Next is the power sources, that which type of power sources, whether they are man's labor or the machineries that are being used by the draught animals or by using the fuel sources. The technological and the attribute knowledge of the users, land users are also important criteria towards delineations of the land. Then technological advancement or the employment of the techniques which varies from equipments or the instruments, machineries, fertilizers, livestock breeds, farm transport, then methods of timber felling, all these things comes under this. Infrastructural requirements are also an important factor or the criteria, as well as the size and structure of the land holding, whether it is a fragmented small area used by the individual or a consolidated by used by a huge community and they work there as a community work. So land tenancy is also important, that who has got the rights for the land by the individual or by the group, and also income levels expressed in per capita, per unit productions or the per unit of area. On these are the few criteria which have been used for the classifications of the land utilization type. So we can have numerous examples on these, like by taking any one of these criteria, we can have, let us for example, we take a example of freehold or the land size, right? Land size of the farm in which we want to work upon. So if a freehold farm of, say example, for 5 or 10 hectare, which is rain-fed annual cropping based on the mustard with subsistence with the rice, but the small holders with traditional and the high labor intensive farming methods, then when we compare it with other type of agriculture type, where we are actually implementing each and every technology, we are using the same traditional technology, we are again doing the intensive work, that is intensive agricultural system. But here if the farmland size has been increased from that 5 to 250 or the 600 hectares, and instead of individual it is a community based type of agricultural system, then we can classify it into different type. Similarly, the commercial land extensive methods where we use like a huge capital investment, huge investment on the other automation of machineries, where we do the production of wheat on the large tract of land, are also classified under a different criteria. That means using the above, as mentioned assumptions, we can divide the land as per the utilization purposes, as per the land size, as per the implementation of fertilizers or the technological advancement. Now, land use can also be classified on the basis of the particular plot of land taken place in terms of whether it is a multiple user or a compound user. So, for multiple users, a multiple land use operations consist of more than one kind of use simultaneously undertaken on the same area of land, each use having its own inputs, requirements and the produce. Take for an example, like in a timber plantation which can be used simultaneously with the recreational areas. And about the multifaceted, that is where there are multiple use of the single land, which we commonly do in terms of a crop rotation. So, land utilization involve more than one kind of use undertaken of area of land, which for appraisal purposes treated as a single unit. The different kinds of uses may occur in time sequences, as I have said, like the crop rotations can be an example of such type of organizational unit. Mixed farming also involves in both the arable and the grazing land, for an example. Similarly, classifications can also be done on the basis of physical and the chemical characteristics of the land resources that we are using, that is the quality of the land. A land characteristic is an element which can be estimated or measured, right? So, when we are actually talking about the quality of the land, that is what is the quality in terms of chemical composition, in terms of its physical property. Physical property can be in terms of like slope, soil textures, moisture capacity and also the vegetation biomass. So, land mapping units determined by a resource survey, which is normally described in terms of land characteristic. So, the quality of land have multidimensional traits of land, which acts in a discrete way, and that affects on the appropriateness of the land for a particular sort of land utilization. Land qualities might be verbalized in both the optimistic and the negative ways. The cases can be struck together after a wetness level or the disintegrations of the resistance, flooding risk, nutritive estimations of fields, accessibility. Through informations, though informations of the existing qualities which may otherwise be utilized. Further, it is pretended to portray the disintegration resistance which influences the expenditure towards land maintenance, works required for arable utilizations, while the nutritive estimations of the grasses influences the profitability of land under ranging. Land qualities have been described and classified by FAO under following, as I will mention, criteria, like land qualities which are related to productivity from crop or from other crop growth, like crop yields, then availability of moisture, availability of nutrition, availability of oxygen on root zone, workability of the land, followed by salinity and alkalinity, resistance of soil erosions, drying period of ripening of crops. Similarly, the land qualities related to domestic animal productivity, like potential productivity of grazing land, a resultant of many qualities listed like above in the previous points. Similarly, climate-wise, that is affecting the animals like your epidemic pest and the diseases, nutritive value of grazing lands, then land qualities related to the forest productivity. So all these things are related to the land qualities. Next, we can also refer to the qualities with reference to the forest, natural forest or the forest plantations or the both. That means the mean annual addition of timber species, that is the resultant of many qualities that we have previously mentioned, as well as the pest and the diseases, as well as the fire hazard. The land qualities are also related to the management and the inputs. The quality refer to the arable land, animal productions, the forestry, terrain factors affecting the mechanizations, the size of potential management units, and as well as the locational relations to market and to supplies of input. Now, after the all classifications or the all utilizations types, let us come to what is the basic relationship between man, land and the various management strategies. So, man is actually the populations. So, at a point when the population increases at a given area, the expanded demand on the resources induces a stress, a pressure, and thus prompts divestment of these assets. In any case, if enhanced management strategies and techniques under the administrations are accessible, either the way of life may rise or more individuals can be sustained in a similar way of life without compromising the normal resource base. So, with the technological advancement, we can have a sustainable resource use, that is by maintaining a particular skill, by maintaining a particular advanced technology, we can serve more people by wasting less resources. This follows an adequate supply of land with reasonable quality and suitable productions. Now, according to the state of world's land and water resource for food and agriculture report 2011, it says land and water resources are central to agriculture and rural development and are intrinsically linked to the global challenges of food insecurity and poverty, climate change adaptations and mitigations, as well as degradations and depletions of natural resources that affects the livelihood of millions of rural people across the world. The current projections indicate that world population will increase from 6.9 million people today to 9.1 million by 2050. So, in addition, the economic progress, notably in the emerging countries, translate into an increased demand for food and diversified diet. World food demands will surge as a result, and it is projected that world production will increase by 70% in the world and by 100% in the developing countries. Yet, both land and water resources, the basis of our food productions, are finite and already under heavy stress, and the future agricultural productions will need to be more productive and more sustainable at the same time. Therefore, under the framework of pressure, response and state, the pressure is referring to the driving forces exerted on land by human activities and their impact on the status of land quality. The effect of an expanding or diminishing animal populations, for example in a game park, environmental changes unrelated to terrestrial factors such as the sunspot cycle. The state characterizes the type, degree, spatial extension and the rate of changes of vegetation, soil, nutrients and the water compatible to your other things. So, in that sense, we have to understand what should be the approach toward our utilizations of the land. So response to characterize the conscious effort by land users and government to remedy any degradation changes is highly needed. We need a sustainable way of development. So land resources are under pressures, as we have said that currently 16% of the arable land is degraded, and which is again increasing. Traditional system of land management are either breached down or are no longer appropriate to be used. To replace or manage them, technology is not always available. Now, the available of land, if you evaluate that a total area of around 2.5 thousand million hectares of land in the developing country has included in the potential of rain-fed farming. The 2/3 of the lands are rated as having significant constraints due to topography or soil conditions, while not all of this land is available for agricultural productions, that we have to note it. However, fertile land is not equitably disseminated either between the nations or inside the nations, and fluctuating changes in access to land is in respect of population needed and more critical to the world total. Competition of land among the various utilizations has also turned out to be intense and clashing. This opposition is frequently most clear in the peri-urban fringes, where the unending weight of the urban expansion competes with the farming ventures and the recreational needs. Universally, factors related to extensive scale effects incorporate biophysical impacts. For example, varieties in atmosphere, regular or human initiative calamities, and also financial viewpoints. For example, exchange advancement, the globalization of business sectors, decentralization of basic leaderships, privatizations triggers the ending gap between the haves and the have-not. Including this, there is a pressure of population, and the progression in the total population in the course of recent year has been coordinated by the relative increment in the urban population to the loss of rural population, that is the migration, that is rural-urban migrations. The one perspective of this migration of this individual to the urban community, of course, may diminish the total pressure on the farmlands, while at the same time stimulating the market for the producers. Then again, the creation for the essential items, for example, food, fiber, fuel, delivered from a lessening land region by decreasing relative populations, while urban development diminishes the aggregate land accessible to the agriculture. Now, with this, let us come to land use land cover scenario in India. India is bestowed with resources serving the necessities of sustenance for around 1 billion of populations and varied environmental functions. Since independence, the population has expanded by 284%, while the sustenance food production has increased by 286%. The nations, this shows how we are actually increasing our pressure on the land. Now, agriculture met 24% of our GDP. The loss of agricultural woodlands cover on the land between 1990 to 2000 is about 380 square kilometer, which is every year, like as put forward by FAO in 2000 in his report. At present, with the increasing population pressure, low man-land ratio and swelling land duplications, the need for optimizing optimum utilization lands has been assumed to be highly important. Between 2000 and 2013, the land which are not under cultivations have increased during this phase. So, initial knowledge on the outward and the inward element working at the various spatial and the time scale and immediate need should be created for measuring the land use land cover change. In couple of years, in the last few years, an account on the extension of mining zones, augmentation development of dams, utilization under urbanization, industrializations, they have influenced the regions, the land use patterns of the type in India. Inward changes incorporate shifting farming zones, selective logging caused by human pressure on the timberland assets, and the natural habitat loss for wildlife because of lessening of your forest area. IRS and NRSA prepared a land use land cover map for the entire Western Ghat at the scale of 1:250 million, using the satellite imageries to identify the fragmented and the disturbed areas for biologically rich areas. In that sense, from the whole discussion, we can summarize that at present, with the increasing population pressure, low man-land ratio and the swelling lands, the need for optimum utilization of land is highly important, and it is of great relevance also. The availability of the timely informations on the status and the trend of this land use change, the land resources and human ecosystem interactions are crucial for decision making of the farmers, for the local, provincial authorities and the national government. So when we need to study about the land use land cover changes, the importance of satellite imageries as well as the statistical data generations is highly necessary and as well as essential for our policy formations, planning and better use of the sustainable land resources. So with this, I thank you all for joining the lecture. Thank you.